Okay, so in this video, what we're going to be looking at is finding a rule using a table or a graph. But first off, we need to define what a rule is. So a rule is an equation that allows you to describe the relationship between the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate in either, as I said, table or graph format. Basically, what it's saying is if the equation says that if for this particular one would say that when x is minus 3, my y would be equal to 4, or when my x is 1, my y is equal to 0. Okay, so that's what our definition here is. Let's go on to what we need. That leads us into what we refer to as the linear rule. There's a linear equation, rule for the linear equation, and that's given by this form here. Okay, but I'm going to rub that out for the moment because what I'm going to do is show you what these boxes mean. So what this first box is defined as is the coefficient of x. And then what I'm going to talk about is this one here, and we call that the constant. Now, I'm going to talk about the constant first and then come back. So the constant is the value, is the value of y when x equals 0. Okay, so if I just I'll show, if I said y equals 2x plus 5, if I said x equals 0 to the side, if I said x equals 0, that would mean y equals 2 times 0 plus 5, that becomes 0, so y would equal 5. So that in this case, my constant would be 5. So that's what we mean by that. So what does the coefficient mean? So let's go back to the coefficient. The coefficient is how much x will, I'm going to put arrows up, increase or decrease. Oh, sorry, it should be y. Y will increase or decrease as x increases by 1. Now, I've just used the arrows just because of saving space, but that's what we mean. So the constant's always the same value. The coefficient of x can change. So if you can have coefficients of values of 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. Let's go, next part. So let's now do finding a rule from a table. Okay, so let's look at this first one. So the way you look at finding the coefficient is looking at the y part and looking at how much that y is changing. So if I look at here, it's changing by plus 3. Oops, let me write that again. Plus 3, then I go from here, plus 3, from there, plus 3, and then from there, plus 3. And so what we say that's what the coefficient is, because it's illustrating that part about how much the y is increasing. So in this case, what that means is, remember, I've got y equals, I'm going to put an underscore there, x plus whatever that value is. So we've worked out that this, like I said, is corresponding. Let's pick a different color than yellow because that's really hard to see. That means that my coefficient is 3. Okay, so I put a 3 there. Then what I do is, in this case, as we said before, if we know what x equals 0 is, we can say what the constant is. So in this case, I put a -2 for my constant. So if we now look at the next example, what we don't have is something that has a y equal, an x equals 0. So we're going to have to come and show you a different way to do that. But let's first work out let's write this at y equals something x. You don't have to have the underline there, but I'm just doing that for our purposes now. All right, so actually, before I move on, the way you might write this top one, I should have finished that off properly. Y equals 3x minus 2, because I've got a plus and a minus there, so that basically means it's -2. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So in this next one, I'm actually decreasing. I'm going down -2, -2, -2, and -2. Okay, so that means my coefficient in this case is going to be -2. And remember I said before, it can be negative. In this case, it is negative. Now, here's the part where you need to do a little bit of what we call substituting. So I can pick one of those points. Let's pick the first one. So we're going to say, if you think, when you do your coordinate systems, it's going to be 3 and -5. Now, if I look at my equation here, what I can do is, I'm going to pick a different color here. I'm going to say y equals -2x plus, and let's call it c for the moment, because we want to solve for that. If I know what x is, and I know it's 3, I can go -2 times 3 plus c. And then I know what my y is, so I can put -5 there. So what I've got is -5 equals -6 plus c. And because I didn't leave myself enough room, let's just go up here. I'm going to go, if I go +6, then +6. So I'm balancing both sides. That means that's gone. That means I got -5 plus 6. So my answer for that is 1. So now I can write c equals 1. So basically c, I just use that as a letter to illustrate the constant. And that means my value here is 1. So my equation, my final equation, let's rub that out quickly, just so I've got a bit more space to actually write it nice and clearly. Here would be y equals -2x plus 1. Okay? All right, so we're looking at finding the rule from a graph. As you can see, I've got a graph here. I've got some points plotted and stuff. So what we want to do is our first option is to construct a table using the points given. So for example, let's pick a color. Let's pick light blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this one here, and I can see it's -1, 3. So I'll put -1, -3. The next one I'll do is this one here. So it's 0, -2. So I'll go 0, -2. Next one is 1, -1, 1, -1. The next is 2 and 0. And the next one is 3 and 1. And what we can see here is that if we go from here, I'm going +1, +1, +1, +1. So what that means is my coefficient, remember if I wrote y equals plus c, that my coefficient is going to be, let's just put it back the way I had it initially, is going to be 1. Now, what makes it easier now is when we write 1x, we just write x here. And keep in mind, in this case, to work out that constant, we do have a value for x equals 0, and we know that y is -2 at that point. So let's put -2 in here. Okay, so that means my equation will be y equals x. Remember what I said earlier, the plus and minus, that means it becomes x -2. And so that's how you could find a rule from a graph. Okay.